everyone. Welcome to TVP World. I'm Diana Sky, and we are here in Yerevan, Armenia, at the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. And my guest today is Sossi Tatikyan, a foreign and security expert in Armenia. Sossi, thank you so much for being with us here on TVP World with us today.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Now, you've worked, if I'm not mistaken, both inside NATO with the UN as well.
I cannot work for NATO because I'm not from a NATO member country. I was posted as an Armenian diplomat to NATO. Mm-hmm. And yes, I have been a UN international staff political analyst.
So
yes.
Where do you see Armenia's place today? Closer to the EU and NATO, or still somehow tied to Russia?
In terms of security, we don't see ourselves as associated with Russia any longer. After all the frustrations that we had in the last 5 years, Armenian government has aimed to reduce its security dependency on Russia as much as possible, because we even had a situation when Russians were complicit, along with Azerbaijan, in forced displacement of Armenian population from Nagorno-Karabakh, and also occupation of our border regions. And also there are hybrid threats. So I am very much for Armenia's EU integration. In theory, I would love to see Armenia in NATO too. However, it's not realistic, and we need to be realistic. My model for Armenia is the model of Finland, before actually it became a NATO member, because after it lost Karelia to Russia in 1940s, it aimed at EU integration, and it also established a kind of neutral, friendly relationship with Russia in order to mitigate the risks from Russia. At the same time, it became an EU member, and it was also very active NATO Partnership for Peace member, and it was increasing its interoperability with NATO armed forces. And then when there was a favorable geopolitical situation, it became a NATO member right away, like it was the fastest accession. So we are in a similar situation. Of course, Armenia's situation is much more complicated, because we have Azerbaijan, with whom we are still in this peace process, and Azerbaijan hasn't signed the peace agreement. And we don't know whether Azerbaijan will ever sign the peace agreement. Of course, we want to be optimistic.
So let me ask you something. So you're saying Azerbaijan didn't sign a peace agreement. However, what was signed then in August at the White House with President Trump, how would you call that?
It signed a Washington Declaration, which was a legally non-binding declaration where it committed to peace, and it initialed the peace agreement, but it didn't sign it because it continues to raise preconditions in front of Armenia. In particular, it demands Armenia to change our constitution, while its constitution has some problems that Armenia can also interpret as territorial claims to Armenia, but it has declared that it's not going to change its own constitution. So the way we perceive it is that, I mean, some of us in civil society and expert community, is that, in fact, Azerbaijan may be hoping that when we put the constitutional reform on the referendum, it may fail. And then it may refuse to sign the peace agreement, blaming the Armenian side for the failure of the constitution.
So you're saying that this might still stall the peace process, yet the way that the seminars showed today, for the first time we're seeing a dialogue, some kind of sit-down dialogue between delegations from Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey discussing the path forward. So now what I'm getting by the information that you're saying is that you don't see it that way.
I'm not saying I don't see it that way. I'm very glad that we have an analyst from Azerbaijan and several parliamentarians from Turkey and Turkish analysts. So we absolutely need to talk to each other, and dialogue is very important because it's not enough to even sign a peace agreement. We need to go a long way for reconciliation and genuine peace building. However, what we feel, many of us in the Armenian civil society, is that Azerbaijan may be still trying to kind of jeopardize the peace process by putting this precondition to change the Armenian constitution.
Sossi, let me ask you this. In the beginning of our interview, you mentioned hybrid threats. We've been seeing a very strong pattern of cybersecurity threats in Europe. Let me ask you this. Do you know what Armenia is doing to be able to fight against cyber attacks and cybersecurity? And
I'm not an expert in cybersecurity. It's a bit technical, but what I am very specialized is hybrid war in terms of cognitive warfare and lawfare. So what has been happening is that Azerbaijan is trying to create a perception that Armenia is changing its constitution under its pressure, upon its demand. And this is exactly a hybrid warfare, cognitive warfare method, because we were actually going to change our constitution even before the 2020 war. This is our domestic, internal, democratic process. However, Azerbaijan is trying to create a perception in the Armenian society that we are doing it because Azerbaijan is demanding us to do so. And this may backfire, because if the society feels foreign interference by Azerbaijan and that Azerbaijan is just trying to conduct kind of a cognitive warfare and cognitive victory over Armenians, we need a very high constitutional threshold in order to pass this constitutional reform. So as a result, there may be people who may actually not vote favorably. If you remember, there was such an instance in Cyprus. There was Kofi Annan peace plan, and it was voted negatively by the Greek population in Cyprus, after which the peace process stalled. And again, we also have problems with Azerbaijani constitution, because according to us, they indirectly claim 2/3 of Armenia's territory. However, we don't put this precondition, because what our authorities are saying is that if we sign the peace agreement and ratify it and it's approved by the Constitutional Court, it will already resolve all the issues and any territorial claims to each other.
thank you so much, Sossi Tatikyan, for all your insight with us here on TVP World. And thank you for watching. We are here in Yerevan, Armenia, at the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for being with us.